Hello everyone, welcome to BrickVault. Today we are once again expanding onto our Star Wars micro-scale fleet, filling out some space for the Empire. These are the 3 micro-scale Imperial Shuttles. The Lambda-class shuttle is probably the most well-known, being the type of shuttle that transported Emperor Palpatine and landed the Strike Force on the forest moon of Endor. Then we have the Zeta-class cargo shuttle, made popular in Rogue One, also landing another Rebel Strike Force, this time on Scarif. And lastly, there is the Sentinel-Class Shuttle, primarily designed as a troop transport with the ability to hold up to 75 personnel, at least according to Wikipedia. The designs come from us here at BrickVault. Specifically, my brother Charlie built these 3 ships, and if you wanted to build any of the models for yourself, the instructions can be found at our web store, www.brickvault.toys. With each purchase comes the PDF step-by-step building guide and a quick upload part list for fast ordering on websites like Bricklink. It is our policy to stress test models, exclude parts that are too rare to build with, and create instructions that are easily followed. That way, if you get instructions from us, you'll know that for sure these creations can be built in real life. That's not always the case in the custom building world, so buying instructions is a great way to help support what we do here at the channel and the amazing designers that we work with. Okay, now jumping into the shuttles. They are built to 1:50 scale, meaning they are accurate to the rest of the ships that you see here. And even though the shuttles weren't really designed for direct combat with the enemy, they visually are starting to make the sides look a lot more even against the rebels. In terms of their real-life measurements though, the longest and widest ship here is the Zeta, measuring to nearly 6 inches long, 15 centimeters, and just over 7 inches wide, 18 centimeters. And in all configurations, both the tallest and shortest ship is the Lambda, measuring to 19 centimeters on the stand and 9 centimeters while landed. Full measurements for all the ships can be found in the description, but I think it is worth now singling these models out individually to get a closer look at their details. Let's start with the Lambda-class shuttle. It's really the seed design here from the Star Wars universe that many of the Imperial shuttles all tend to emulate in one way or another. The top fin and 2 splayed out wings create 3 points close to an equilateral triangle, and I can remember actually back in the day calling this the Mohawk ship when I was a kid because of how that top fin comes up. Some of the more notable small details here are the round plates with bars that indicate the cannons in the front that are attached to the wings, and the use of those rounded 1x1 pieces that smooth out the area around where the wings attach to the body. Kind of rounds out that section nicely. In order to get the dimensions right at this scale though, some interesting internal choices were made, and this ship out of the 3 needs to be held in the right places when transforming it. It's a pretty basic process of removing the stand and then adding on the 2 little chunks that make up the landing gear. And then as I fold the wings in, I'm actually sort of pressing the clips in at the same time. There's a way to kind of keep that pressure going so you don't accidentally break off a little chunk of the model. After that, it's just a measure of folding the guns up, and the Lambda-class shuttle is officially landed. Once on the ground, you can see me repositioning it. The model can wobble a little bit here and there, but that's because there are only 2 feet supporting it up, and I do really like the way this ship looks a lot while it is landed, and I think that's one of the reasons why the rest of the Imperial shuttles have played with the same transforming functions throughout so many other iterations. It just looks cool. Alright, and handling 2.0 for this model, it's pretty easy to pick up and move around. The wing has a nice natural way of stopping. It kind of hits the body there, and then at the joint that is a little bit bent on that wing, you have to sort of manually adjust that area on your own. Taking off the landing gear is kind of fun. Sometimes those feet sort of separate there, and I use this little piece to pop them off, but it's really not much of an issue. It's just sort of an easier way to pull off that little Technic part. Of course, course, attaching it to the stand again is as easy as pie, and now you've got the Lambda-class shuttle in the flying mode once again. The Zeta-class cargo shuttle is up next. About halfway through the design process, my brother noticed that the ship kind of looks like a sea turtle, and frankly, since then I have not been unable to see it. Instead of the 2 transforming wings like the Lambda, now there are 4, 1 on each end of the blocky body, and the greebling on the top of the shuttle is certainly the most intricate out of the 3 ships. The bucket handles, grills, and hinges and clips make up some of the primary shapes there. Binoculars plus screwdrivers equals laser cannons, and instead of the cockpit canting downward like many Imperial designs, the Zeta's nose comes up slightly, and that leaves a lot of space for the loading ramp underneath it. I like this detail a lot because it really would be easier to load supplies through an opening like this compared to some of the other shuttles. The flag pieces are used again, not just for the ramp, but also in the back to make a subtle angle leaning towards the small thrusters. And now let's get into the handling of the model. This takes slightly longer than the Lambda-class shuttle. You first have to take off the stand like the rest of them, and then there are 4 small 1x1 orange tiles that must be removed. I like to fold the wings up after removing the front 2 tiles because it's just easier to get to the back 2 tiles when those wings are out of the way. And once those 4 orange corners are removed, you add the landing gear in their place, and that's that. The model is strong enough to be moved around just by pushing on the wings at the top, even though they're just 2 plates thick. It has many distinct differences, like its darker primary color, its bright orange cargo container, and a high level of greebling, but the vertical wing position for me is something that changes the shape of the model almost more than anything else. I like that there's just enough ground clearance between the landing gear and the belly of that cargo container, and with the lighting here, the dark inside of the ship almost makes it look like there's an actual opening that leads to the cargo container from the open ramp in the front. I don't know if I have to explain a whole lot while showing the Zeta go back onto the stand. In general, I just like to show you guys that the models can be handled pretty easily, and that the process of doing any of the functions, the transforming features, aren't going to be too precarious or annoying to actually perform. Sometimes when removing the orange tiles, I take off like an extra little dark bluish gray plate. It didn't seem to happen this time around, and the body for this ship is extremely strong. Now we're moving on to the Sentinel-Class Shuttle. This is one of the more fun ships that got resurrected or amplified into greater prominence only many years after seeing it for the first time. Personally, I remember seeing this in the Shadows of the Empire game back on N64 when it was like super huge and super battle damaged. Then it snuck onto the special edition of A New Hope, and its dimensions changed drastically over the years, but it's safe to say that its design is closely related to the Lambda-class shuttle. The cockpit is a little wider, the top fin and wings are slightly less pronounced, and the body is much larger and thicker, and the thrusters are also bigger in the back. Staying true to its many iterations, the Sentinel has a mostly smooth body with very little technical or greebling details. You can see some blasters on the wings, similar to the Lambda, and there's also some lever pieces by the cockpit that also indicate some weapons as well. That's actually kind of similar to the Zeta. Or if we're going in order, I suppose the Zeta may have borrowed that idea from the Sentinel. Doesn't matter. The larger thrusters in the back do make it distinctly different though from the 2 other ships. The Sentinel was expected to be landing in conflict areas much more than the other 2 shuttles, so perhaps better acceleration made a bit more sense for this design. The handling for this model is the most casual. Unlike the other 2, that second joint angle for the wings in the back actually can press up against a plate, so you don't have to guess the perfectly correct position for the angle of the wing. Everything else though that you're seeing is very straightforward. You don't have to pull any extra pieces off in order to get the landing gear on. And while landed, the shuttle's wings take a similar or basically identical angle to the Lambda. After messing with these models for a while, I've come to like the rear mounted wings being offset to the mid mounted fin. It's also worth pointing out the height of the cockpit has increased, creating a little more room for the troops to enter and exit the ship quickly when the ramp is down. Here I am showing you the Lambda going back on the stand. This is the easiest out of the 3 to handle, and that's mostly because the wings in the back just have that static angle that you don't have to guess at. It really is just strong like the rest of the models though. Now with all 3 shuttles together again, it's nice to see how each of these designs holds on to similarities while also retaining distinct features that helps them better perform their assigned roles in the Empire. It's not too often that cargo and transport vessels models are still considered cool in a sci-fi or fantasy universe, that designation is usually given to fighters or battle cruisers. But personally, I think that's a testament to just how amazing the design teams are at LucasArts, where even their more subdued or conventional ships of Star Wars can still hold on to a very strong sense of style. Remember, if you wanted to build any of these models for yourself, the instructions can be found at our web store, www.brickvault.toys. There is a link in the video description. As always, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to like, subscribe, comment, share, whatever you want to do. That's always an awesome way to help support us here at the channel, and it also helps support the amazing designers that we work with. We appreciate you taking the time to check out what we do here. If you got any extra time, you can always check out that web store. And thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time at BrickVault.